All right, welcome back, everyone. Today, again, we have Javier Garcia from CWI, Daisy Aguilera from U of I, and from Bellevue High, we got Christian Adamson and Miss Darcy Peterson. Sorry.
Awkward.
So today, I know last week we left off talking about a very tense topic, which is loans. So this week we're going to be talking about scholarships, which tend to be a little bit more fun. Um, Scholarships, there's so many. And one of the things that I hate telling students is that each scholarship is different, so it always depends. It depends on those scholarships. Um, but today we're going to be talking a little bit more of some of the more common misconceptions when it comes to scholarships. So I just want to start off with what are some of those most common questions or misconceptions that you hear from students?
I'll start off. When I speak to students about opportunities, I think one of the biggest myths and misconceptions is that scholarships are only available to minority groups. One of the things that I always try to impress upon students is, and in my presentations, is that scholarships you can get for whatever reason. Literally anyone can give a scholarship out and make their own requirements. So it's very common for scholarships to be given on ability. So like when we think of athletes, right? On achievements. So folks who like have high GPAs, and definitely like character traits. So like, are you part of this? Are you, a woman? Are you Latino? Are you affiliated with a religious organization? Are you a musician? There are tons and tons of opportunities available for scholarships.
Just to add on to that, I think a lot of the times they feel like they're not going to be qualified because they think that they're all focused on GPA. And I think that's another one that, we need to kind of clear up is that, again, to Javier's point, there's so many different types of scholarships. I mean, I've heard of, scholarships of like send in the picture of the cutest dog or make your prom dress out of recycled material. I mean, there's so many different things, it's just a matter of really doing the legwork and looking for those scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
At the high school level, we get a certain amount of students that want to go play a college sport. So they think that scholarship's just going to come to them and they don't quite understand the process of the clearinghouse for the NCAA or NAIA or other things about that. But one of the biggest things we run into besides issues in wanting to complete the FAFSA is that just because a student isn't part of a underrepresented population, they think they don't qualify for scholarships. So when in reality, there are many scholarship opportunities out there for everyone.
Additionally, some students might think my family makes too much money, so I won't qualify for any scholarships. But again, we've just dispelled that, opportunities are many, scholarships are, requirements just vary. And so while you may not qualify for some, it's true, there will be a lot that you would. It's just about looking.
So when we're looking at scholarship qualifications or requirements, I know a lot of students tend to say, well, I don't have the grades either. And I know that's very important. And at least for our students, especially when we get them at a earlier stage, like when they come in as freshmen or sophomores, we try and help them maintain their grades. And that's mainly to give them the most opportunities for when it comes to scholarships. Now, how do you guys work with students that don't have a GPA higher than a 2.5? You're on mute.
In the community college world, we have a lot of students that, different ages, different stages in their life. And a lot of times, school was not a priority for them. And so it's very common for us to have students that have, the lower GPAs However, when we're looking at scholarships, there are a lot of programs set in place for students in those types of situations, non-traditional students, students that for whatever reason, they may be the most brilliant students, but GPA doesn't reflect their work ethic, or their life situation happened to affect them more than they wish it would have, right? And so again, it's just searching for and providing students with opportunities for scholarships they would qualify for. And luckily, I think a lot of us have databases, binders where we keep all those kind of opportunities, right? And that we can get students going on. And so that's kind of one of the ways that we support our students. As when we do offer scholarships, we look at what does our student population look like, what are their needs, and really how can we help these students be successful and give them opportunities that they otherwise would not find somewhere else. Anybody else?
One thing that we do here at Valley View in the Career Center, we keep a nice database on the Career Center website of a lot of scholarships, and we try and talk to the students a lot about those. All of the more recognized local scholarships, and then national and regional scholarships as well. We'll post those and try and keep them updated so that kids can go on there and have easy access to the websites and what the qualifications are and all that information right there.
So when students are looking for scholarships, what is the difference between national scholarships and local scholarships?
So I reappeared. National scholarships, we talk to our students on the basis that of the size of the competitor pool. And so national scholarships have a large competitor pool, and local scholarships have much less. And so it's not in the intention to like make a student feel bad necessarily, but when there's less people competing for something, you have a higher likelihood of winning it. And so the other thing I think too is that those local scholarships really add up in the end. And the national ones are kind of hit and miss sometimes. I mean, we've had students get them, but obviously not nearly as often as those local or state. State, we kind of have a hierarchy of local, state, or regional, and then national.
What about institutional scholarships? What should students expect when looking for institutional scholarships?
I think when it comes to institutional things, I think it's also including extracurricular activities. I think sometimes students might get a little bit too comfortable with trying to fill out scholarships way too fast if they don't take the time to really think about all of the activities that they're involved with. I think sometimes they downplay the fact that they babysit. That shows, the universities and colleges, things like that. I think sometimes they don't realize that those are sometimes some of the things that these scholarships are looking for, that students can manage their time, that they're responsible and reliable. So
I would like to add, especially for our institutional scholarships, and maybe we should clarify what institutional scholarships are. Sorry. So institutional scholarships are scholarships only available to students who actually attend your institution. A lot of times there could be a process where students, even though they've applied and been admitted to the school, still have to submit some type of application. And oftentimes it might mean that they automatically get qualified based off of their admission letter. So it just depends on the institution you apply for. But students, they have to submit one general application. It applies to many scholarships at the same time. And so we try to make it easy for students. But again, they can only keep these scholarships if they're awarded if they come to us. Unfortunately, they can't take it anywhere else. And that might be the difference between, a regional, national scholarship and then institutional scholarships, where you could choose where to take them. These you can't. You have to be sure.
So that's a great point when it comes to looking at the scholarships, looking at some of the requirements and scholarships and maintaining those eligibilities for those scholarships. When we are looking at national ones, those tend to be more transferable than the local or even state ones. So when students are filling those out, make sure that you are reading what the requirements are for that specific scholarship. Along with that, once a student receives a scholarship, what should they expect in terms of maintaining that scholarship?
One of the biggest things that we don't talk to students about is this responsibility that they have towards the scholarship they've received, right? If they've been awarded. And oftentimes, similar to the requirements needed to get it, there will be requirements to keep it if it's one of those scholarships that is re-awarded. And so GPA needs to stay up. If students attend their institution, don't do the best, GPA drops down, they are in jeopardy of losing some of that money. And we talked about federal aid last year, a little bit about what that was. One of the things the FAFSA, right? One of the things we forgot to say was grades also matter. So if you're not doing well, if you're not making progress towards graduating, you can also lose those scholarship opportunities. And so something to keep in mind. Christian?
I think one thing that I would add also is that students need to be really looking at the details of the scholarships. Some of the scholarships do have deadlines. The majority of them have deadlines, but some of them are renewable and some are not. So they do have to make sure that they meet the criteria.
All right. So how many of us got some scholarships to go to college? Everyone? Yeah. So why did we have to take out loans?
Well, Yvonne, I would invite everybody to see the podcast episode before this. Darcy, your audio's off.
Oh, I didn't share.
Oh.
I got loans last time.
Yeah.
So I had a little bit of academic scholarship, but I chose to, and I had a little bit of athletic scholarship. I chose to go to an out-of-state junior college. So I didn't have enough guidance in my life at that time to make a good financial decision for myself. And so that's why loans started. I didn't understand how they worked. So my family got a private loan, and it's unfortunately dictated a lot in my life since. And truthfully, it's like paying for a mortgage on a house that I don't get to live in, because I didn't know that I wasn't going to need it at the time, but borrowed the money. The type of loan that it was is illegal now because it was considered predatory lending, but I still borrowed the money and it still is accruing interest. So, but my academics, I graduated in the top 10 of my class. So I had decent academics and applied to all of the local scholarships at my high school. And then also got money for softball at the school that I went to. So, but not quite enough.
Yeah. So one of the things I always forgot, well, I guess I just became a little bit lazy about it too, I'm going to be honest, is applying to scholarships as I was in school, as I was in college. So I know I remember one year I forgot to complete my FAFSA until August 1st came around, and I saw my tuition and what I owed, and there was thousands of dollars there. And then I remembered, I was like, oh, I haven't done my FAFSA or scholarships. So I think that's one of the things that tell students is just keep applying to scholarships. There are still scholarships available as you go through college. But for me, the main reason I ended up going to school was I received what they called a full ride scholarship. And I know we've kind of heard, and I know a lot of students tell me, well, unless I get a full ride, I'm going to school. What was considered a full ride for my school was the first year of tuition was paid for. And that didn't include any living expenses, didn't include books and supplies, it didn't include anything else. And then after that first year, it wasn't renewable. but that did help me attend, at least pay for my first year in school, and then the rest I paid with some other financial assistance. The only other scholarship that I remember getting my first couple of years in college was within my program. I was an art major, and we had some art scholarships that we could apply for specifically for art students. And then when I went to the University of New Mexico, I don't know if you guys ever received the WUI. I know a lot of we tell students about the WUI. Well, I got the WUI, and I didn't read any of the requirements for it and maintaining it. So I was this close to losing it after my first semester. One of the requirements was maintaining a 3.5 GPA. And I ended up my first semester up in UNM with a 3.49 GPA. And I was very close. I had to appeal it. But that was my experience with scholarships. And so when I'm talking to students, I remind them to read the requirements for those scholarships. Make sure you understand what they need from you and what you need to maintain, whether it's a renewable scholarship or not. What was your guys's, I guess, best experience and maybe worst experience with a scholarship?
One of the things I talked about last episode was that I didn't do a whole lot I did apply for some scholarships, but I could have been better at it, right? And especially my very first year. And I also spoke on how the College Assistant Migrant Program allowed me to be able to afford to go to the University of Idaho. And, I owe them in large part also a big reason for why I was able to graduate, because they were such a great support system. Now, when I was up there, one of the things that I did was I did apply for more scholarships, but I think one of the things that kept me from maybe getting more was that there is a process to writing essays. That there's different requirements to the scholarship process that I just was not aware of. So I might apply, but I wouldn't put a lot of effort into it, and I thought that was enough. And as a scholarship reviewer, I help my students and I say, make sure to pay attention to all the requirements, word count, and make sure to answer all the questions, things like that. And so I guess the best opportunity for me was when I got to go to the University of Idaho, and this is unfortunate, but someone dropped out of the camp program, and then I was able to get that scholarship, right? And incidentally, I don't know who that person was, but I do know that their name was also Javier, because everybody kept calling me that when I got into the program, because I thought, oh, you're Javier. I was Javier, but the other person that had dropped out, his name was Javier also. And so that was great. Maintaining my GPA high into my third year allowed me to get more scholarships also that I hadn't had before, that were only designated for juniors. And so that's another cool thing about if you keep your grades up in high school, well, yes, in high school, but also in college, you may be able to, have more opportunities for more scholarship money. So highlight for sure. Did you ask about the opposite? For biggest surprise, I guess, with the scholarship was, once, GPA came down, because college can be challenging, like we talked about. So when GPA did drop down a little, then I also did lose some scholarships. So something to keep in mind, right?
Yeah. So last time I talked a little bit about, the athletic scholarship that I had. And then there were also some other institutional scholarships that I didn't even know about until after I had registered for classes and was meeting with the financial aid office at the school. So I didn't have a very good support system either. Like Darcy, I didn't have, a lot of that information in my senior year and my junior year about what I could apply to and what options were there, so that I knew what types of local scholarships were available. I think it would have helped a lot to have had that support. But I did try and do some research myself, but I think that my mistake was looking at national, I was looking at these big collections of scholarships that are, the pool for the applicants was so huge. If I had really focused my attention on the local and regional scholarships, it would have helped a lot.
Well, I kind of talked about it at the beginning, but I think because I did so much of it on my own, there was a lot that I missed that could have helped, like help, like outside help, not outside help, but help from the institution that I was at, like using like the TRIO version in college, the student support services and whatnot. And I was, I guess, pretty independent, and I didn't think anyone would help me, so I just plowed through it on my own. And I think that if I would have been a little more willing to slow down and ask for help, that I think it could have been a little different. When I got to Boise State after I transferred from a junior college, I did look more into scholarships, and I was surprised that there wasn't as many available for those in college. I was lucky enough at that point to be considered independent, so I qualified for a Pell Grant. And then I also I dropped my GPA, like we all do in college, it seems, and then I raised it enough to qualify for a scholarship for future educators, which, I mean, it wasn't a whole lot, but it was enough. So, but I had always grown up hearing about all these scholarships that athletes and whatnot get, and it turns out that, those quote unquote full rides are pretty unique.
I think for me, it was similar to Darcy. I feel like I didn't take advantage of all the resources that the university had offered at the time. And I guess in part it was because I wasn't like always checking my emails or anything like that. So I did miss out on like when they had like Meet the Vandals. That was a big event at U of I. And luckily I still had enough time to make it to Vandal Challenge. But again, I was a similar situation to Javier's. I found out about camp program like very late on. I mean, luckily I was fortunate enough to get one of those scholarships, but I kind of wish that I would have checked my email a little bit more, because sometimes the institutions will have some like waivers or additional resources, especially as some students start withdrawing their application, they'll start reawarding. And I think sometimes we're too quick to withdraw our application instead of like waiting to see, to make your final decision. There are schools that will wait. I mean, I get it. That's not always the case clear across the board, but I think just making sure that you check your email and you attend those events that they invite you to learn a little bit more about their school.
Just as a reminder, we do have a TRIO program at the college level for those students that didn't, that may have qualified in high school and didn't apply. Make sure you check out your college and see if they have a TRIO program. You may qualify for that program, and it does help you with tutoring, scholarships, all of that support that you need in college. Going back to a few things that a few of you said is grades, maintaining grades in college. At least for me, that was hard. That was so much harder than in high school, and it wasn't necessarily that the classes were hard. I think a lot of it, at least from my experience, it had a lot to do with the social part of college. But when it comes to scholarships, that definitely is something to consider. It's a lot harder in college to bring up that GPA. And the scholarship opportunities as well are a little bit harder to come by. At least, I don't know if it's the same for you guys, at least the scholarships when I was looking, those few times that I did search for scholarships, they were now more geared towards students that had not sure how to put this, but had more of knew more as to what career choice they wanted to go into. Um, they were more focused towards certain students, so they weren't as broad, and there wasn't as many as general scholarships as um, those scholarships are available for um, first year students coming in.
Yeah, I have to be honest in that once I, became I got into the junior and senior years of college life. By then it had just become a little bit easier to just, take loans. So not that I'm promoting that, but I didn't, that's another thing I would change, honestly, if we're talking about ways to be smarter and definitely scholarships. Do what I say, not what I do kind of thing. Yeah, it would be. I wish I would have applied for more. I wish I wouldn't have leaned in too much into. I knew that loans were a for sure thing if I really needed them, right? I didn't go out and take the money that I really didn't need. But at the same time, had I been applying to a scholarship like you're talking about, that's true. And it is very true that once you get into those upper level classes, more into your specific major, that a lot of the scholarships you might find do tend to be more geared towards professions, or they will say the scholarship is for juniors, this scholarship is for seniors. You do have to hold a higher GPA. All those things are very, very real, and so yes, it was challenging.
So what kind of advice would you give students, whether they're starting high school and starting to stress about scholarships, whether they're seniors um, doing their scholarships right now, or current college students? What would your advice to them be?
I'll start. I think it's just really important that you take the time to investigate and see what you're eligible for. There are so many different scholarships, so many that go unused, and millions of dollars that go unused, every year. So just doing the research and taking the time, just like you would just like how we explain to kids here at the high school level, it's like you're putting time in just like a job. So, and there's a lot that you can get out of it. The pay is going to be more than what you can get at a lot of other jobs. The amount of money that you can save in the long run is definitely worth the time spent doing applications and writing essays. And so just reach out for help if you have questions. I think that's really important too, just to advocate for yourself and try and find those local scholarships that are available.
I would say apply early. There's no harm in getting started. Write down your strengths, your weaknesses, what you're involved with, identify all the things that you're part of, and then go from there. Attend local events like this one right here, Avanza. We give out free scholarships. All you have to do is interview. There's easy ways to get these scholarships. It's just, again, put that work into it to attend these kind of events.
So one thing I'd add is that in my experience over the years is that even if you don't meet all of the requirements as a student, maybe if you're just one off, go ahead and apply anyway, because I've had students that they were the only applicants and they were 3 or 4 GPA points below the requirement, and they got the scholarship because they put in the effort. So if you're really close, the worst they're going to tell you is don't. So, and you just, spend an hour on writing something to where you are going to become a better writer, but at the same time, you're still putting in that effort.
Javier?
I don't think I can agree more with everything that's already been said. But yeah, just do it. Actually, like find the motivation, do it with friends, whatever you need to do, and work smarter, not harder. So save your essays that you use, because more often than not, a lot of the scholarships have the same prompt. Tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background. What do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? All that matters. And so.
Okay.
Do it. Yes. All right. Well, thank you all for participating and giving us that great advice. We appreciate it. And students, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, feel free to leave us a comment or send us an email. Again, Daisy has that's what is it called? QR
You
code.
just have to bring up your phone, bring up your camera, and it'll automatically scan it. And
Great event, easy scholarship, no writing. All you have to do, especially if you like to talk like
it's
me,
virtual.
and virtual.
Any of these dates. Any of
Yep. Javier, we can't see that.
That didn't work.
No. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.